Hey everyone, and welcome to Mom and Me Unfiltered, the podcast where we keep it real, raw, and relatable. I am Brianna.
And I'm Zuni, and we're here to share unfiltered conversations about life, love, family, and everything in between. Nothing is off limits from generational differences to parenting perspectives. We're diving deep, laughing loud, and learning as we go.
So let's grab a cup of coffee, let's get comfy, and let's get into today's episode.
Today's episode will be school. School
Experiences.
experiences. Okay, so school experiences in different generations. Let's talk about it. So, the school experiences, of course, that I have had are very different to the school experiences you have had, and different to this generation that's, currently in school, whether it be in elementary school, junior high school, or what they call middle school now,
Mm-hmm.
and high school. So I can recall for myself when I first started school, they had a thing called Head Start. So Head Start was kind of like a pre-K before you went to school.
That's interesting because we just have pre-K.
Right.
There's no Head Start.
Well, that's Head Start was what they called it back in my time. So it's the same thing, it's just a different name. So they called it Head Start at the time, which is like kind of like a schooling kind of daycare type place for, young children before they go into kindergarten.
Hmm.
And from there, we went to a different school. Well, we started school, and our school in elementary went from kindergarten to fifth grade. I'm sorry, from kindergarten to sixth grade.
Which I find interesting because in this day and age, elementary goes from 1 to 5.
And we went from, like I said, kindergarten to sixth grade, and then from seventh grade to ninth grade, and then ninth grade we would go to high school.
That's
And now at this time, when you were in school, it was different for you. It was different for your brother and your sister because you did kind of go to like daycare, but you never went to pre-K. That was never like something that you did. You went to kindergarten, but you never went to pre-K.
yeah.
You went to daycare.
Yeah, I went from Poly Dodge and daycare to going into first grade right away, which was an interesting experience because I was so used to running around and playing, and all of a sudden I was in a structured educational environment where you had to sit down and learn to read. You had to learn your alphabets and math, which was really hard going from an unstructured environment to a very structured environment.
Well, that's what school is. School, like daycare and school, totally different things. In daycare, they're just watching over you for the day. They're not, supposed to like teach you anything. I'm sure they did teach you little things here and there, and it was a different environment. But school, you're there to learn. So once you start kindergarten, you're expected to start learning right away. That's what you're there for. And it has to be like a structured thing. And you struggled with that because the teacher was constantly complaining about you in kindergarten. And like one day she was so upset because you used a regular marker for her dry erase board. I remember that.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That incident was so interesting because you don't know any better, especially since they don't teach you that there's different markers that you could use for
Mm-hmm.
the dry erase board.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm over here thinking that Mr. Sketch, those scented markers were good to use on a dry erase board when they weren't.
And of course, you aren't the type to ever ask, so you never asked, and you didn't quite listen, and you still don't quite listen.
Guilty.
So that's kind of tough when you have a student that is in class and they're not asking questions and they're not like actually listening, which is kind of hard. But again, school was totally different for all of us, you know, as we were growing up. I know for me, I went from school to school, and I didn't stay in the same school from kindergarten to sixth grade like I was supposed to, because we had gone through a couple of fires and we had to move.
Mm-hmm.
So we were still, in close enough proximity to the school when we moved the first time. And even after the second time, it wasn't such a long walk, but we continued on in the same school when we moved the first time. And I stayed in that school until fourth grade. And then after the second fire, or should I say the third fire, after the third fire, we moved, and there was a school across the street from us. So my mother took us out of our school that we had been in since kindergarten until fourth grade. She pulled us out of that school to put us in a school right across the street from us, which was not such a good school. It wasn't a great school. My brother was always getting into fights. He was always in some type of trouble in that school. And we were only there for 1 year. So I was only there for fifth grade. And another reason why my mom had pulled us out of the school on, I think it was 100 and, can't remember what street it was on. But anyway, when she pulled us out of that school that we had been in for so many years and all of our friends were there, we
Mm-hmm.
knew all the teachers. So when she pulled us out of that school, for me, it was devastating. I didn't like it because she pulled me away from everything I knew. And our one of our aunts would always walk us to school because my cousins went to the school. So one of the reasons why she didn't want us going to that school anymore was because she didn't want us in school with my cousins. She wanted to keep us away from our cousins because we would talk, and there was always some incident or something that we said to our cousins that would get back to our aunts. And my mother didn't want anybody in our business. My mother she wanted everything to seem like it was picture perfect and there was nothing going on, and she didn't want anybody to know anything. She wanted to paint a beautiful picture of like life was beautiful in our household when it wasn't.
I suppose that's understandable that you don't want everyone to know your business, but at the same time, taking you away from your relatives and your friends is kind of messed up.
Right, but she figured another thing too, it was less of a hassle that the school was right across the street. So we could just go to school on our own and she didn't have to, do anything. So that year was awful for my oldest brother, like I said, because I think he had fallen down some stairs and he had broken his leg, and something happened in the school, and like an incident with a fight with a kid happened in school. So she ended up pulling us all out of that school. Even though I wasn't having any incidents in that school, she decided to pull us all out of the school because she wanted us all in the same school and didn't want us split up. So the following year, I did sixth grade in another school that was a block away from where we lived, which, let me see, my cousins went to that school, but like we didn't really interact with them at that school much because we didn't really see them a lot during the time we weren't in the same classes and we weren't in the same grades. So I guess she was okay with us being in that school while they were there because we weren't interacting as much in that school.
I think that's kind of bad that you had to go school hopping, essentially, because you're supposed to have a structured environment, and I was lucky to have all my years in one school per every like elementary, middle school, high school. I never had to move, and I'm grateful for that because I like stability, and a child is supposed to have stability. And without that, they can't really become a good person without that structure because structure,
You're trying to say I'm not a good person
well,
because I
well,
didn't have
not
structure?
that.
Like, what is that supposed to
Well,
mean?
I'm not saying that you're a bad person. I'm just saying that you need structure in your life, and
Right,
then
and structure is good for you, but it doesn't mean that you become a bad person because you don't have structure and you had to bounce around. Like, yeah, I had to bounce around, but it was something that I had to endure. It was something that I had no choice because I was a child and I had to do whatever it was that my mother was telling me to do because I couldn't make my own decisions. I wasn't old enough to. And my mother was never the type to allow us to make our own decisions. It was her way or the highway. Like we had no choice.
mm, that's that's crazy that y'all had to move around,
Right. And
though.
then at the end of the day, when we all went to junior high school, we all went in separate directions. So it didn't make any sense for her to try to keep us in the same school, as we were
Mm-hmm.
young, because she wasn't the one that was taking us to school and picking us up either. It was always a family member that was either taking us to school or picking us up. Like, I don't recall there was a time where she was, getting up, to take us to school or coming to pick us up.
And that's something that I find very messed up too. That if you're not gonna be the one that takes your kids to school, then why are you making that big decision? Like, I understand that you're the parent, but at the same time, cater to your kids because
Right, because we only had 2 more years left. Well, I only had 2 more years. My oldest brother only had 1 more year in that school. And then my youngest brother would have had 3 years in that school. We could have stayed in the school where we knew all the teachers. We knew, all our friends were there. We knew the principal. We knew everyone there. So everything that was familiar to us, was kind of taken away. And I get it that we had several fires and we had to move, but it wasn't so far that it wasn't walking distance, that it wasn't anything that we had to commute to.
yeah. Also taking you away from your friends is also bad because you're gonna miss them, and that's gonna cause like heartbreak. Because I know that if I had a friend and I was taken away from them, I would feel sad. And then it would be hard to make other friends because you're thinking about your other friend
Hmm.
and you don't want to feel like you're replacing that friend either. So it's going to be hard.
Right. So, experiencing, the two fires at first, and then we moved a few blocks away from, the school. And even with the fire, when we moved, and we from the first two fires, when we moved, we were a few blocks closer to the school. And then when there was the last fire, the third fire, we moved, a few blocks further from the school, but still it wasn't walking distance from where we were, because we would walk there in snowstorms. Like, we would literally be walking in like feet of snow to get to school. and it was no big deal because it wasn't that far.
That didn't change in my time in going to school because I used to have to go through storms too.
Well, you're lucky that you were able to go to like the same school and graduate from that school from the time you were like in what, first grade all the way to like fifth grade, which was strange to me when you graduated from fifth grade because I graduated from sixth grade.
Yeah.
And then another crazy like point is that when I graduated from my school in sixth grade, the same teacher I had in sixth grade was the same teacher my brother had in sixth grade. And I didn't think he was going to get the same teacher because there were two different classes for each grade in that school. So I thought he would get another teacher. And when he got the same teacher I had, I was like, oh boy.
That's so funny that you had the same teacher and that you said that there was two teachers
For each
for
class.
each class because that was the same in middle school. In middle school they had different houses and different like every teacher per grade in different houses and I always wanted to be in every and okay, every house had the certain teacher that was talked about with like embellished stories. Like, oh, they're so cool. You should get this teacher.
Oh no, my
So
teacher had a
every
reputation.
teacher, so every student wanted to get that teacher.
Yeah, my old teacher had a reputation, so I was kind of worried because my at that time, this is the differences again. At my time when I was in school, in elementary school, teachers would still put their hands on students.
Oh,
So my old sixth grade teacher was not shy for grabbing, a student by the neck and, putting him in his place. But he wouldn't do it to all the students, all the male students. He only did it to the disrespectful students that would like get out of pocket or interrupt the class. That we had that one class clown that was always like trying
like
to disrupt the class and act up. So, the teacher would like grab them and we would be like, what the heck is going on?
just grabbing? No, like ruler situation.
No, it was no ruler. But I heard on one day that I was absent, he just, one student, I don't know what the student did, that he grabbed him and he slammed him on the desk. But at that time, like, teachers would do it and it wouldn't be a thing. Teachers wouldn't get in trouble because the student is being disruptive. Parents would discipline their kids, and it was just like kids were getting beat at home. So it was like, okay, if the teacher disciplines my child, it's okay because my child is acting up.
I guess in this day and age, it's different because I know for a fact that you never wanted anyone to lay a hand on me and that you would prefer to do your own disciplining. And I fully believe that nobody should ever have to have to discipline another person's child other than the parent
Mm-hmm.
because the parent is the one that is yes, I know. Okay. Um
But the
yeah.
disciplining kids, the times have changed, and now you see the students beating up the teachers instead of the
Wait,
teachers like disciplining the students.
for real?
Yes, I've seen it where like now students are like being disrespectful and like really trying to fight teachers and be disrespectful and not, disrupt the class and feel like, they're tough and they can do those things.
Oh
So
no.
a lot of teachers don't want to be teachers because of the way so many things have changed that students are so disrespectful.
I mean, I've experienced some like very aggressive moments in the classroom, but it was never to the point where it got into a physical altercation between a student and a teacher.
See, but you're lucky you never saw that. I saw it, growing up in my generation. I got to see, that. But like I said, it wasn't something that was severe, and it was something that the adult had control, and it never got out of hand where, a parent had to come in and be like, what is wrong with you? What are you doing to my kid? Where now teachers are being assaulted, teachers are being attacked by students because the kids nowadays are just being allowed to run amok and behave badly, and no consequences are, you know, they're not seeing any consequences for their actions.
You see, the thing is, in my generation, back when I was in school, the the most aggressive a person would get would either be yelling at the teacher or throwing the desk down or throwing the chair, but never getting into it with a teacher like that, or with a teacher getting into it with a student. So that's something that I've never seen where a student or a teacher would do any of that to each other.
Yeah, but in your generation, my generation, kids still had common sense,
And
and
respect.
they had respect. And they respected anyone that was older than them because their parents taught them, hey, you respect your elders, or their parents let them know, like, hey, just because I'm not there and you do something wrong doesn't mean that someone that I know may not see you and come back and tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Because just like, we have that issue in our building and some other buildings nearby where kids from the nearby high school, they come into the stairwell to, smoke marijuana and hang out in the stairs, and you try to tell them to leave and they get disrespectful. Even though they don't live here, they don't pay rent here, but they feel like they own the place, and you're asking them to leave, and they want to be disrespectful, and they call you a itch and all of that other stuff. A
this
itch with a B.
generation, this generation bold.
Right.
This generation real bold.
So it's like somebody that's older than you that lives in the building where you're trespassing, you have the balls to be disrespectful. And you
Mm-hmm.
have the balls to disrespect an adult that's not even being nasty to you, that's asking you politely, like, hey, you don't belong in here, it's not safe for you, it's not safe for the tenants, you shouldn't be here, you need to
Mm-hmm.
leave, and if you don't leave, I'll have to call the police. It's not like you're saying, yo, I'm going to call the police on you if you don't leave. You're telling them, look, if you leave, I won't have to call the police, but if you choose to stay here, I have no choice but to call the police. And they still want to curse you out and be disrespectful and act tough. And it's like you can't do anything. You can't do anything. And it sucks because when I was growing up, if an adult was to say anything to me, I wasn't allowed to talk back. Like, we weren't allowed to talk back. If my mother ever found out that I talked back to an adult, I would get smacked so hard.
Yeah. In my generation, we we could talk to an adult, but we had to at least talk to them respectfully. And I don't understand how this generation can be so rude and disrespectful towards their elders because one, your parents should have taught you better than that. And two, why are you speaking like that? Why are you behaving like that? It's very undisciplined and very, what's that word? Uncivilized.
Yeah.
Uncivilized of you.
But what they don't understand is that they're gonna get to our age eventually. They are gonna become adults eventually. And the generation that comes after them, if that generation does the same thing to them, how are they gonna feel?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're gonna be in a few years in my position. So some other teenage kid that comes after you is going to disrespect you just the same way you disrespected me. And the same things that you're doing that I'm telling you shouldn't be doing, you're going to be telling another kid that they shouldn't be doing it.
Yep.
So it's like when an adult tells you something, just cut your losses and go. Like there's no need for
Yeah.
you to become confrontational. And another thing too is that now in this day and age you're hanging out in strangers' buildings. You don't know who's in the stairs. You don't know what's going on, and you don't even know your friends like that, because your own friends could be the ones that are plotting against you to harm you, but you're hiding out with your friend in a stairwell in a strange building that neither one of you live in, that something can happen to you,
Mm-hmm.
but you want to hang out in that building and take that chance.
That's another thing about children. They believe they're invincible and
Right.
that nothing can go wrong, and that's something that needs to be dealt with because as much as a child should feel safe, they also should learn the consequences of what they're doing is wrong.
Right, because the same way they got into the building, someone with mental issues can also get into the building and harm them. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone from the building or their friend. It could be just some random person that decides to come into the building that doesn't have good intentions. They'll come into the building and harm the kids.
I think that kids need to take their safety more serious because I know that if I was doing what these children are doing, you wouldn't be having it. You wouldn't you wouldn't be letting me stay in no staircase and smoking or doing drugs or
Or
whatever.
just hanging out in a
Yeah,
stair and somebody's stairwell that's a building that you don't live in or
exactly.
you don't know is some strange random building.
Exactly. Anything could have happened to me in that moment and you wouldn't have known because where was I? Somewhere I didn't belong.
Exactly. But another thing too, like someone from your family or a friend of your parent could see what you're doing and it could get back to your parents. Like what I do when I see these kids in the building, if I have video of them, I send it to the school so that the parents could be contacted. So they don't know that even if it's someone that doesn't know your parents, it's going to get back to your parents, it's going to get back to your school somehow. Because there's, especially now, there's cameras everywhere.
Hmm.
You're being recorded at all times. So whatever you're doing, you're being recorded. And even if you think that you're passing by someone's door that has a ring or any other type of camera, you're being recorded. It's being picked up. And I see all of these kids coming into the building, and right away I send the video to the school. And another student from that lives in this building, I caught someone in the stairs that actually lives in this building, and I spoke to her mother, and now her mother knows, and her mother's aware that she's cutting school and that she's smoking, that something that she shouldn't be smoking, that the mother's unaware of her actions. So that's another thing that you can teach your kids as much as you can, and you can talk to them and you can tell them what to do, what not to do. And outside influences don't always help, because a lot of the times if a child or a youngster, a teen, they're not mentally strong. They're not strong people. They're not people that are like, hey, I'm a follower. I'm a leader. I'm not a follower.
Well,
I'm a leader.
that's been happening.
I know.
Oh my
I'm
God.
a leader. I'm not a follower. I'm not going to follow what you do. and they have that mentality, they won't get in trouble. They'll stay out of trouble and they say, hey, you're going to go in that building. I'm not going to go with you. But there's other kids that have the mentality of, oh, yeah, whatever you're doing, I'm doing. Like, what are you doing? If that person gets into trouble, that person is not going to stick their neck out for you because you decided to go.
Mm-hmm.
So this girl, I don't know if she decided to come into this building, and cut school on her own or if her friends convinced her to. But I know her mother, and her mother doesn't look like the type to be having any crap or someone that appreciates, being told, like, hey, your daughter's doing XYZ in the building and she's not supposed to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would hate for anyone to come up to me and say, your sister, your brother were in the building or anywhere doing something that I taught you better
Mm-hmm.
not to do. So it's gonna upset me. So I'm pretty sure I upset that lady and I feel bad, but I prefer for her to know what her daughter's doing because I saw it and prevent something negative happening to her daughter because I didn't say anything.
That that is so true because I know that if anything were to happen to me like that, you would want to be informed.
I would 100.
Any parent would want to be informed of their child doing something wrong because even though they don't like to hear it, they need to know it because that's their child and it's their responsibility to make sure that their child is safe.
Right. Exactly. And a lot of people say, oh, where are the parents? What are the parents doing? And you know, 9 times out of 10, the parent isn't aware that the child is doing certain things. Like this woman, when I approached her and I'm telling her, hey, your daughter was in the stairwell and I think she was smoking marijuana at 10:30 in the morning. Like, does your daughter still go to school? Was she supposed to be in school? Because I don't know. I'm just informing her. And she's like, oh, where was she? Oh, at what time? And she was bothered. Like a parent that doesn't care wouldn't ask questions. And a parent that is unaware that their child is doing something that they shouldn't be doing isn't going to ask questions. They're just going to blow me off. So this parent was concerned. And I hope that, that student, that girl, listens to her mom and stops hanging out with the wrong crowd and stops doing those things because just because your friend is smoking marijuana in a stairwell doesn't mean you need to. Like
Yeah.
when I was in school, there were kids in school that smoked. I never knew anyone that was doing any substances, but I knew friends in school that smoked. Did they offer me cigarette? Yes. Did I smoke? No, because that's not something I wanted for myself. That's not something that I wanted to do, and I didn't want to become a smoker.
I've experienced that too. Like in high school, that's where a lot of the people who were doing marijuana or like vaping, they would try to get me to do it too, like saying, "Hey, Brianna, you want to try this?" or "Oh, I could get you an edible." And I always said no because one, I didn't believe in putting substances that don't belong in my body into my own into my very blood or any of that because I didn't feel like poisoning myself with all those chemicals. And I don't want to go down that path either because I've seen the news, I've seen reports of what it does to people.
And you're seeing those people slumped over in the
Yeah.
street that they're defying gravity
The fucking gravity.
and they're not falling for anything no matter what. You probably can like poking them and they still wouldn't fall.
Yeah, so
Those
I'm like,
people.
that's scary. I'm like, I
Right.
don't want that to be me.
Right. No. And that's another good lesson for parents to show their kids like, hey, look at that. Look at what that person is doing. That person is like has substances that shouldn't be in their system, and that's what happens. And
Yeah.
if you don't want to look like that, you never touch any of that stuff.
Yeah, like one of my friends said that marijuana isn't addictive. Marijuana is addictive. The very feeling is addictive. So I don't get why people are saying marijuana is not addictive. It is.
Everything in life is addictive. Just like sugar is addictive, cigarettes are addictive, drinking can be addictive, and it's worse for people that have addictive personalities. Like for me, if I have a glass of wine, I'm not going to want more. It For me, I had a glass of wine, I'm okay. I don't need anything else. I don't have an addictive personality that I have to have it. But again, even sugar is addictive. Sugar for me is addictive. That's one thing that I can say that I can't stay away from is the sugar.
Same.
But but everything else, I don't have the desire to continue to have it, or want to have it. So I don't know. I don't think that people should be putting those things in their bodies if it's a regular Tuesday, just
Hmm.
because it's a Tuesday, I want to, smoke and get high. And it's not good for their young little brains either, because that's
Yeah.
not doing anything good for them. They think that it is, but it's not. Like those things for medicinal reasons can help you with with whatever situation you're dealing with, but it's like every medication you take, it helps one thing, but it ruins another.
Every drug has a risk. Every drug
Exactly.
has a risk.
There's always a side effect to whatever it is that you're putting in your body.
And and scientists have already proven that the frontal lobe of your brain isn't fully developed until you're 25, and you shouldn't be drinking period until you're like 25, because drinking, drugs, anything that is bad for you can really damage that part of your brain, and it's developing. You need to not do anything that's harmful to yourself.
Yeah, I remember when I was in junior high school, and if I wanted to cut class, I wouldn't go to smoke marijuana or smoke cigarettes or do any of those things in a building in anyone else's house. If I cut school, it was to go to the park. I was in the park. I wasn't in a building, and I wasn't in any strange places. And I'm not going to say I didn't cut school. I cut school. Everybody cut school. Well,
I've never cut school.
you
I've
keep
never
saying
cut
you
school.
keep saying you didn't, but because you didn't have a parent that said, "Oh, Brianna, it's your birthday or it's whatever day. Do you want to stay home?" I would let you stay home on
You
certain
know?
days. Or if you were sick, I would be like, "No, you're not going to school until you're all better."
Yeah.
So you didn't have a parent that was like, "No, you got to go to school no matter what. You're not." If you felt sick in some type of way, you didn't feel well, I would tell you to stay home.
Mm-hmm.
But kids that didn't have that luxury would cut school.
Mm-hmm.
And for me in ninth grade, I don't know what got into me. I guess I was going through something. I was going through some things on my own. And I just didn't want to go to class. I just started cutting class. And there was this boy I liked, and I just wanted to spend time with him because my mom was so strict that I wasn't allowed to, you know, go out. I couldn't go out to see him. I couldn't go to the park with him. I couldn't go anywhere. If he wanted to see me, he had to come to my house. So I was like, that's how strict my mother was, that I couldn't be anywhere either. It had to be in my house or I had to sneak to see him. Or the one time he did come to see me, she let us go downstairs to the park in front of the building where she could see us out the window. So I didn't have it so easy when I wanted to be with my boyfriend. I'm like, I had a boyfriend, But I couldn't see him whenever I wanted, so I would cut school to be with him.
Wow, I never had a boyfriend. I never had a boyfriend that I
That's
just
what,
wanted to skip the class with.
but
What a luxury.
that's why you didn't cut school because you didn't have a boyfriend. But it wasn't like he influenced me because he didn't. I
No, you
would
influenced yourself.
I influenced myself because I wanted to see him. And those were the only times that I would get to see him, even though he would come during lunchtime. Lunchtime would come or lunchtime would be over, and I didn't want to go back to class because I knew that I wasn't going to see him every single day of that week. And I knew that I wasn't going to see him till probably next week or whenever it was that I was going to get to see him. So I wanted to take advantage of whatever time I had. Now, had my mother not been so strict and allowed me to see him outside of school, I wouldn't have been cutting school. I would have done what I had to do and I would have made sure that I was getting all my school stuff done. But
That's kind of hella cute.
I know, but because of the strictness of my mom, I cut school. And it's weird because I had never cut school before. And that was the first year that I started cutting school was in ninth grade because I wanted to spend time with my boyfriend.
So you really can't skip class nowadays because they be calling home.
That's not true because these kids be in this building and that lady didn't know.
Well, I guess it happens to be certain schools that only call home because
These kids know how to get around all of these little situations. Trust me.
yeah.
These kids get smarter and smarter and slicker, and a lot of them just don't care. And some of them, to be honest, they don't have parents that care. And I'm not going to say it's all of them. Some of them have parents that don't care or that don't have the time or that don't sit and talk to their kids and know what their kids are doing out there. Um, I'll be honest, when your sister and your brother were in high school, I didn't know all the time whether they were in school unless I got a letter in the mail or if I got a phone call because your sister was cutting school in high school and I wasn't aware of what she was doing. And then that's when everything spiraled that she started making up stories and everything went down the crapper after that. So, and it wasn't that I wasn't aware of, of everything she was doing because I was aware of something she was doing. But when you're at work, you send your kids to school, you expect them to be where you send them. You expect them to be where they're supposed to be. Like even when she was walking you to school, she was supposed to walk you to school and go to school, and she wasn't doing that. She was walking you to school and either coming back home or I don't know what else she was doing. And that's the scary part is that I don't know what she was doing outside of that and where she was going, when she was cutting school. But I'm glad that, she never got into trouble. I did go to the school many times because of whatever your sister was doing. I did get involved with the school and tried to figure it out. But, everything went downhill anyway. And even though your sister didn't end up in a bad situation, your sister now has her family, she has her job, she's doing well. She didn't end up going down the wrong path. She wasn't smoking, she wasn't drinking, she wasn't doing any of that stuff. Thank goodness. But it was because she was taught
Mm-hmm.
not to do those things. And she was told, like, hey, like, don't do those things. And she had a parent that cared and that was on her butt constantly.
Yep. We were so lucky to have you.
So, other parents need to step it up and help their kids out. Talk to your kids, find out what's going on with them and make sure I know you can't be in 20 places at once, but as parents, we have to do our best to make sure that we guide our kids in the right direction because we want them to do better than what we did in life. And we want them to end up better off. And we want our kids to be safe. We don't want them to be in danger. We don't want anything happening to them. We don't want to say later on down the line, oh my God, I didn't know where my kid was, and now my kid, is not here or in a tough situation, and I don't know what to do. You know, avoid the unnecessary heartache.
Yeah. I think that since the development of certain apps like Life 360 and Find My, which basically means you can track any family member down on just using their phone. I think that in this generation, we're lucky to have that just in case anything
But I
happens.
think more parents need to have a location on their kids to see where their kids are during school and if their kids really are in school, when they're supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm I'm just happy that we set up that situation too. That we put a
Yeah, we have the locations,
yeah,
but like I said, I know it's hard for parents because parents have to work, parents have stresses and lives of their own, but when you have kids, like your kids have to come first.
hmm
And you have to make sure that your kids are where they're supposed to be. And if they're not, you need to make sure that you light a fire under them and you let them know, like, listen, you don't want to end up like this guy over here that's, defying gravity, because you can start with drinking and you can start with smoking marijuana and you can end up trying, harder things, things
yeah,
that are going to affect your body, even more because it's an addiction. People upgrade to different things.
yeah. Especially since when you get used to one thing, you start to go for something a bit harder because your body's just so used to that little high that you just have to get a bigger high.
Right. And then when you start drinking and then you can't stay away from the drink and then you're drinking and you're driving, that's another issue. You're putting other people at risk when you do those things too. When you have those addictions, no matter what the addiction is, you put other people at risk.
Yeah.
So I just know in my generation, I never saw the things I see now with these kids.
I'm just grateful to have not experienced this in my
In
time.
your generation, I never saw things with kids like,
No.
smoking
We still had decorum,
and drinking and
respect,
hanging, and there was still some type of respect for
and
adults.
manners.
And now the kids have lost their manners, they've lost their respect, they're, you know, doing, substances at an early age. And it's just crazy. Like something's got to give. Like something's got to
hmm
give, and something's got to happen, and some change has got to happen because it's crazy and it's illegal. And the one thing that bothers me about, these poor kids doing these substances at such a young age is that even when you call the police to remove them from the building, there's nothing that the police can do, or they won't do anything, so that there's some type of consequence for these kids to stop doing these substances. And it's like they're underage and they're able to purchase these things, they're able to consume them, and it's a shame. Like there has to be some way to keep this stuff away from the hands of the youth.
Yeah. I said it before. We need truancy officers again.
Right, but that
But
again, that's
yeah,
old and that's not gonna happen again because that didn't even happen in my time
yeah,
when I was in school. That wasn't even a thing. So that's been over for decades. But, and it's not even about truancy, it's about there being some type of,
protection.
well, not only protection, but consequence for these kids, doing these things at
Mm.
such an early age or being caught doing them. Like when the police officers come and they're escorting them out of the building, pat them down, check them. If they have anything on them, take them down to the station and have their parents pick them up. Like they shouldn't have these substances or anything on them. So take them to the station and have their parents pick them up and their parents know where they were when they were supposed to be in school.
Mm-hmm.
So just any type of consequence would help because kids will do everything you allow them to do, but if there's a consequence, they'll think twice.
Don't I know it? I've received many a consequence due to my mistakes, and I fully believe that if every child got their consequence, ooh,
They will
the
learn from
lessons
them.
they will learn.
Exactly. Because some people you can tell them something and they'll listen. Like I was the type, if you told me something, I'm gonna listen. I'm not gonna test or tempt fate. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do that. But there's certain people that they need to learn by their mistakes. And, that's just how some people are, and it's okay. And if once they learn by their mistakes, they won't do it again. They had the consequence, they paid the consequence, and now it's over and they know better. They won't do it again.
Yep.
Just like when you got stuck in the elevator.
Oh my God, we bringing that up again? We bringing
That
that
was your
up.
consequence of getting stuck in the elevator. But the like I said, the differences between these generations are crazy. And it's like things continue to change as the generations,
And not for the better.
come. And no, and it's not getting better because these kids are out of control. They are so out of control. Like some of these kids came and they banged on my door as they were passing by. One group rang the doorbell and just walked by like it was okay for them to do that. So you're coming into a strange building, you're banging on someone's door, and then you're, knocking on someone's door that you don't know. Like the consequence for that, had I been someone crazy or someone unstable, that could have turned out to be a very different scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So these kids don't think about the consequences of their actions.
Yeah, you could have been aggressive, and you could have like really,
I could have been
yeah,
really, like I said, someone crazy, and I could have gone out there, or whoever that was lived in the apartment when they knocked would have gone out there and hurt them or done something. Like you never know. You never know who you're going to come across and who you're disturbing.
yeah,
So kids should really think twice before they do certain things. And I know that they think it's harmless fun, but it's not.
yeah.
And I know we have so much more to talk about when it comes to experiences from school, but I guess this can be part one, and we can move on to part two
Mm-hmm.
of some interesting things that happened to me at school. But we will leave it here for now, and we'll see everyone in the next.
Yep.